Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review for In the Hills Above the Gristmill by Kalvin Ellis. In the Hills Above the Gristmill is an independently published murder mystery, and I just want to thank Josh over at Working Man's Reads and the author Kalvin Ellis for collaborating to send me this book. I really enjoyed it. The way that I structure my reviews is I talk about the plot, the characters, the things that I liked, the things that I didn't like, and then I give the book an overall rating. If you're interested in just skipping to any one of those particular sections, I'll go ahead and put timestamps down below. Paisley Mott is an investigator of the weird and unexplained. She has learned to use her previously crippling anxiety to fuel her ambitions to create a successful paranormal streaming show. Hollis Grimm, the charming preacher in the small, God-fearing Appalachian mining town, wants to bring to light the divine purpose of the ancient beast that stalks the woods, claiming victims at night. Hyacinth Bloom is an internet celebrity, an heiress, and a complete mystery to the people of the town her family helped build. Raven Bloom, her family manor, serves as a gothic reminder of a dark history that the town is trying to forget. When bodies continue to turn up in the hills above the gristmill, Paisley is in over her head. What started as a vlog about Sasquatch has turned into a race to save lives. Not knowing who to trust, she must navigate through the town's dark past. She unfolds mysteries, and if she does not do the right thing, will she even make it out of Graywater Ridge alive? The main character in this book is definitely Paisley Mott. She is an investigator per se, and when I first read the synopsis, I was thinking that she was like an older character, but she's actually only 22, and I was thinking she was like an older detective woman who has some sort of paranormal ability. But then when I started reading, I'm like, oh, she's super young. She's 22 and she has a YouTube channel where she investigates like paranormal things, and I thought that was awesome. It just wasn't what I was expecting. And I felt like Kalvin Ellis really encapsulated a 22-year-old during like 2021, how she would act, how she would talk, how she would think, how she managed her social media presence and her YouTube, and how she was constantly like live streaming different things that were happening in her investigation. And it tickled me pink. I don't know why. I loved it. I just thought it was so well done. I really liked Paisley because she was pretty fearless. She really had a lot of weird stuff going on with this investigation. She didn't let it get to her. She definitely kind of bulldozed through certain situations to uncover the truth. And she really wasn't easily intimidated. Now, there were some things about Paisley that I would like to see more of. So it is talked about how Paisley has anxiety, and we do see a glimpse of her going through this anxiety in one scene in the book. But then we also, at the beginning of the book, are told that her anxiety kind of puts her into this hyper-focused state, and that was introduced, but it wasn't really carried through the rest of the book and plot, and it didn't really, from what I remember, help her in any way with this investigation and figuring out what was going on. So I would have liked to see just more emphasis on how her anxiety and super hyper focused state kind of helps her in her investigations, because I really appreciate the mental health rep with the anxiety, but I just would have liked to see more of how she used it in her investigating. Also, when we're first introduced to Paisley, she's actually having some sort of vision that has to do with, I think it was her deceased father. And I don't want to say I was confused, but I was like, okay, this is going to have something to do with her investigating abilities. But then that is never touched upon anymore throughout the book. So I'm really curious to see how the author, as he continues to write more in this world with this character, kind of incorporates her mental health into how she's able to investigate. The next character we have is Hyacinth, and she is a woman who, they don't really tell you her age, but she is also an internet star, but no one knows it. This is a very small town in Kentucky in the hills, and it's always like they don't have internet or access to the outside world. I mean, they do, but no one knows that she is an internet star. She's like an Instagram kind of model, and she is the wealthiest woman in the entire town because I think it was her grandfather or great-grandfather owned the gristmill and had bought up a lot of property and things in this small town. So she's extremely wealthy. She lives in this huge Gothic mansion, which, oh my gosh, just the way that our author described this mansion, I want to go there. I want to visit there. I want to stay there. It seemed awesome. And once again, I felt like the author really captured what it was like to be an internet star and be a young woman, and just kind of how she went about being a social media presence and just her interaction with Paisley. I just thought it was really well done. And then next we have Hollis, and Hollis is the preacher of the town, and boy did I not like this character. I did not like him from the beginning, and I think it's because I grew up Southern Baptist, and just right away, if I met this guy in real life, I would have like red flags going off in my head. I would be like fraud, manipulator, liar. You know, right away I knew that he was no good. And as the story goes on, we actually see he is definitely no good. So Hollis, like I said, owns a small church, and his father was a preacher, so he kind of took over his father's church, and he is constantly telling people that, you know, they need to atone for their sins, that they need to confess their sins to him. You know, he was almost taking on the role of being God, like he was the one that could forgive them of their sins. I mean, I'm sorry, sir, that's Jesus' job, but okay. So he was kind of just taking on that figure, and it just really irked me. And then he's also very manipulative, and he uses fear tactics to get people to do what he wants, and we see that through how other characters respond to them. And then we also learn some very disturbing things about him as the series goes on, and why he acts the way he acts, and some things that he's done to some people in the town. So definitely a very unlikable character for me personally. He did have some depth to him. We do learn some secrets about him that kind of explain his motivations for doing the things that he's done, but definitely a character that I never got on board with, and I definitely never got on board with his interaction with Paisley. Now I'm going to go through the things that I liked and didn't like. So the first thing I liked was the pacing. This book was about 320 pages, and it's a murder mystery. So the pacing is very, very quick. You could definitely read this book, I mean, probably in one sitting if you really knocked it out. But for the content, I felt like the pacing was absolutely perfect. We didn't linger too much on erroneous details. There was enough red herrings thrown in there to kind of detract the reader from, you know, who done it and what was actually going on. So for the length of the book, the pacing was really well done. Another thing I like was the fact that this was a murder mystery that was not graphic or gory. I'm not a fan of a lot of realistic gore, and there really was not a lot in this. For me to say that I enjoyed it and I was able to stomach the things that were discussed means that it was very mild. Next, I really liked the small town depiction. So this is, like I said, a small town in the hills. It has a really, really deep, dark history, and I feel like the author did a great job kind of portraying how the people of this small town did not want to change. They didn't want any influence from the outside world. They wanted to keep things the way that they've always been. So I really liked how our author depicted the small town. I also really enjoyed being in the Gothic mansion. Like I said, the descriptions that the author used about heists in this house, and just this sprawling mansion with a gargoyle in the middle, and all of these rooms, and this massive library that's described like the library from the Beauty and the Beast. I was like, oh, that's my dream house. So that part of the setting was really, really cool. And then the last thing that I really enjoyed was this book almost had like an open-ended ending to an extent. So the whole time that these murders are going on, Hollis the preacher is saying that it's a Sasquatch that's doing all of these murders. And we do get glimpses of people who have had interactions with this Sasquatch, like real life interactions, and their flashbacks. And we see that with Hollis, and that ending with Paisley and what was going on with her. I really can't give too much away without spoiling it, but there is a slight open-ended ending to this that I thought just was really well done. So we have this kind of essence of the Sasquatch throughout this whole book, because all of these murders are happening. The people of the town believe it's a Sasquatch. Hollis is telling the people it's a Sasquatch. No one can prove that it's not. No one can find a person that's doing these murders. And it was just really, really cool how he was able to develop this character in this book that was never able to be proven even existed. It was almost like an essence. And just how he wrapped that up into the ending was really cool, and I really liked it. Now on to the dislikes, and there really wasn't too many dislikes. I would say my main dislike would be the lack of horror elements. So like I said, this was a murder mystery, and it was not gory or graphic at all. I was expecting a little bit more suspense, a little bit more creepiness to the book. There was a good atmosphere, there was a good mood. It definitely was dark and dreary and creepy, but I think I was expecting it to be more on the edge of a horror, especially because this book is kind of advertised to have a lot of paranormal paranormal elements. And I guess if you're like incorporating a Sasquatch, that is paranormal, but I was thinking more like, I don't know, ghosts. I'm not really sure. So when I went into this, I was expecting it to be a little bit more scary. I don't find this book scary at all. Interesting and intriguing, kept me wanting to read, yes, but scary or horror-like, definitely not. All in all, I had a lot of fun with this book. I really enjoyed it. I felt like the pacing was awesome. The mystery was really well done. The characters were great. And I will definitely be interested in reading more in this universe. I know that the author is going to be writing more books where Paisley is the main character. And I ended up giving In the Hills Above the Gristmill 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, guys, so that is it for my review. Let me know in the comments if you've read this book or if you are interested in reading it. And I will see y'all soon in another video. Goodbye.